Yeah, let's go ahead and get started. I just want to do a quick introduction, especially for those new to Ventana Wildlife Society and our monthly Condor chats. We hold these every last Thursday of the month, and you hear directly from the Condor crew working out in the field to restore these condors in the wild. And today we only have, I guess, maybe 10 or 15 minutes of Dr. Wells' time. She's the recovery program coordinator for this region, and we've been working with her for many, many years. It's so great to see you. Let me turn it over to Joe, and you can do a welcome, and we'll just get started.
Thanks, Kelly. Yeah, and real quick, today's agenda, per the usual, we're going to do a quick meet up with the crew, and then we're going to get into the avian flu update with Amy. Thanks for coming, Amy. I got do a little more intro for Amy. She's been with us quite a while. I'm going to talk about the rebuild, and then we're going to get into the population status. We're going to look at some cool a cool map that Evan produced for us, and then we're going to get into the fun stuff of nesting. We got a little update on a highway cleanup we just did, and then we'll finish with some Q&A. So that's our agenda for today. Thank you everyone for joining.
Actually, there's one more quick thing. I'm so sorry. I've been so flustered lately. I just want to make a comment that everyone's hearing about highly pathogenic avian influenza, and it's obviously very, very pressing, critical issue. And we've been monitoring it and been doing some preparations. Now we're doing more. We'll hear more about that. But I just wanted to make a point too that lead poisoning hasn't gone away. So we're still going to be focused on reducing lead poisoning from the ingestion of lead ammunition. In fact, we have some new efforts that are coming up. We'll get to share with you in the coming months. So I just wanted you to know, I mean, we're not losing sight of that. It's critically important we stay focused on both of these threats. And so again, with that, thank you for your support, and turn it over to Joe.
Hey, thank you, Kelly. Yeah, and just real quickly, I wanted to introduce the crew. We've been working hard on the rebuild. I'm going to talk about that more later. But today, Danae is not with us, but we do have Darren's here. Wave your hand, Darren. Evan just got kicked out. I'm going to push him back in. I don't know what happened there. Kara, you're down there. Say hi to everybody. And then Evan's back. We got you back, Evan. All right. Got some technical difficulties as we do.
I'm back on. Hey, everyone.
All right. Welcome back, Evan. Cool. Yeah, we got everybody here. Yeah, I think the photo on the right captures it best. Me in the pen, trapped by the crew. They got sick of me and just put me in the pen, But yeah, it's been a really fun project to work on. Also challenging. The winter really threw us for a loop and delayed things. But yeah, we're excited to give you an update on that. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce our special guest today, and friend of mine for over 20 years, Dr. Amy Wells. Thank you for joining us, Amy.
Yes, thanks for having me.
It was funny. I was kind of blown away when I remembered how long you've been working with us and helping us out. And I always love to point out Amy, because she's one of the only vets that will go above and beyond out in the field and actually hike out to these remote nests with us and jump on a rope, as you see on the photos here on the right, and truly committed not only to condors, but one of the most passionate wildlife people I've ever met. And it's just been an honor to work with you all these years. And I can't thank you enough for all you've contributed to us and helping out the birds. I mean, you truly do it on your own time, as a volunteer, and it's just incredible. And yeah, I was trying to count how many nestlings do you think you've examined up in nest over the years?
That's a good question. I mean, we had so many going for so many years where we were doing multiple nest entries each season we were doing up to 4 per nestling. So it's hard to say because there was just so many nest entries. But as soon as we have been able to enter nests, we've been doing it, I would say every year, kind of up until now. It's been less and less that we're going into, but we're still doing it, at least a few out at Pinnacles. So I don't know, when was the first year that we started going into nests?
It would have been for us 2006.
Okay, that's
Uh,
probably
yeah,
before.
for that pair for 167 and 190.
Okay,
But you
so
went,
I mean, it's probably a few years after that, but that I was coming in, but
you
yeah,
were helping before that when
yeah.
Dr. Murray, of course, he was originally with us with our bald eagle program and also helped us with condors initially, and then he kind of passed the baton to you. And
Yeah, yeah. Thank
and
goodness,
that was
because this was obviously my passion and my love, and I think he recognized that and was happy to let me do that. But yeah, from the early on, it was mostly, you know, when birds were being transported, we do quick exams, making sure everybody was healthy and safe for transportation. You know, foxtails in the eye, once in a while you'd be pulling a bird in that needed to be looked at.
that's right, foxtails.
Yeah, but now it's become, you know, I got more intensive as the years went on, and as far as our interaction with the birds and all. So
Yeah, and I mean the early days of, you know, when we started getting our first lead poison birds too, you know, a lot of them were
yeah,
treated by you guys at the clinic. And,
yes,
yeah, I mean those were pretty scary days as well, and we're still in the thick of it. You know,
yeah, it hasn't gone away. Just like Kelly mentioned, it's still number one cause of death and still our biggest health concern, despite that we have new concerns today. But you know, we just keep adding more problems for these poor birds.
yeah. So thanks for coming on, and yeah, we're kind of hinting at that with the avian flu outbreak, obviously that just happened out in Arizona. We thought it would be great to have you on, not only to recognize you, but to get your input from a veterinarian's perspective on what we're dealing with here, and the different preparations we're making. We've been working with you on different stuff, and you also are communicating to the broader Condor Veterinarian panel, right? On
Yeah.
kind of how we can best safeguard the birds and some of the preventative stuff we can start doing now and preparing, right?
Oh, exactly. We, you know, lucky enough to be a member of a nice large group of veterinarians that are part of the breeding facilities, the zoos, and we're lucky enough to have an avian influenza expert that is part of U.S. Fish and Wildlife. So we're getting lots of guidance, lots of communication back and forth so that we can put together you know, the best information out there. So we are going to make the best informed decisions based on what's going on. And we're really lucky that they are essentially at this point through their incident command center doing bi-weekly updates. So we're not going to miss out on what's going on and what we can learn from them, so we know what to apply if and when this becomes you know, a problem for us here in California.
Yeah, and speaking of that, I got that slide up here for the Arizona-Utah update. These are the latest numbers. Again, this is off you can see the links below. That's where we pull this information. These are the latest numbers from, there's been 20 confirmed deaths. I mean, 20 deaths, 12 confirmed as the highly pathogenic avian influenza. There's 4 birds being treated for HPAI that seem to be improving, which is, I don't know if you have any new updates there, Amy, but that's really exciting. And it does seem, in talking to their crew out there, to Tim Houck, their field manager, that it does seem like this outbreak is waning, that they've kind of gotten through the thick of it. But again, we're not totally sure, but they also feel as the temperatures rise, and this will hopefully just reduce the ability for HPAI to transmit, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's the hope. You know, unfortunately, considering that it's springtime, it's still migratory time. So I don't think anybody's obviously out of the woods here. We could have movement of birds coming this way. But yes, as things heat up, dry up, water sources and things like that, we're hoping that we're not going to have continual spread. I haven't heard any additional updates on the 4 birds, but I know, you know, last I heard was that they seem to be stable. And, you know, birds, I think, that have made it this far have a pretty good prognosis. So we are still remaining hopeful.
Yeah, from what we're hearing, the effects are similar to when humans get the flu, right? I mean, the birds get very lethargic, very dehydrated.
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge number of symptoms that they can have, anything from acute death to, you know, nausea and on the ground, poor energy, appetite, you know, respiratory signs, neurologic symptoms. I mean, it can really mimic what we see with lead poisoning too. So birds, you know, and we feel that it's definitely whether or not these birds make it and how sick they get is probably related to the virus load they're exposed to and their own immune system. So again, it makes us hopeful that, you know, some of these birds hopefully are going to pull through and have potentially, you know, some kind of immunity, because this isn't something that's just going to go away in a few weeks. It's going to be around.
Yeah, and we've been talking about that, and you know, just in our terms of our preparedness, you know, this came on the scene, and we started implementing the HPAI safety protocols in the field back in May, and since then, Pinnacle's just started that blood sampling, collecting samples to look at titers, right, to see if birds have been.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly it. And boy, would we be excited if we can show that some of our birds have been exposed and doing fine. That would be ideal. And,
Really
you know,
valuable.
really valuable. And, you know, obviously this is a continued study that we're going to, every time birds are in hand, they're going to be drawing blood samples so we can look and see if they've had an antibody response and whether any of our birds have really been exposed so far.
Yeah, and that rolls into the next one about, you know, working so closely, you know, partnering with SPCA to come up with this emergency plan, to put these quarantine plans in a place where we could treat birds, isolate them from the flock, and get them treated. And you were really pivotal in that. So thank you for helping get us into that spot. We really had nowhere else to go, and SPCA really came through. And of course, we couldn't have done it without your support as well. So they still waiting for the pens to show up. We ordered them. We're showing up, but maybe explain kind of, you know, we're basically getting ready to be able to treat birds, and you've been helping us with some of that preparedness, you know, PPE and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly it. The idea is that we're going to have, we're going to be prepared. So if we start getting cases, we're going to have a place to take these birds. That is not going to cause exposure, obviously, to birds that are in a release pen. So they're nowhere near there. They would be individually housed, so they're not in contact with other condors. And then things like shade cloth covering an enclosure, so we don't actually have risk to, you know, other birds on the property, risk of bringing, you know, having virus shed and spread anywhere beyond the property. We want everybody safe, including the staff. So, you know, we talk about the PPE, we're going to have bleach, foot baths, Tyvek suits, masks, you know, gloved everything, disinfecting everything, and just keeping this as safe for everyone as we can. So, you know, the SPCA has their own wildlife center, and I treat their wildlife there, and that was a big part of it for them, was just to make sure we're not going to be potentially putting their birds at risk either. And it sounds like now that we've got a nice remote location, everybody should be safe. And this is, you know, ideal because it's located so close to your office, our vet office, and I think it should give us the best opportunity to have a place to safely house these birds. And we're lucky enough too that we've got the Oakland Zoo that is, you know, part of our on our team here, and the most critical birds. If we've got birds that need oxygen, they need heat, they need IV catheters, we can't house them outdoors in a quarantine cage. So they are more than willing to take positive birds or even suspect birds that we're still waiting for test results. They'll take them at Oakland Zoo. So we are super lucky to have a partner like that. I can't say anywhere else has a zoo that's willing to take positive birds. So
yeah, that was huge when they
pretty fortunate with that.
Yes, that was a key part of the whole plan. I mean,
Yeah.
as you mentioned, it was obviously these quarantine pens are a pretty key step, but to have a
Yeah.
place for these really, really sick birds to go it was huge of Oakland Zoo. Yeah, and they've been a long standing partner, not only for us, but just really supportive of the Condor program. And then, yeah, we brought up I got a little bullet in here for, you know, the status. U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service has put in a request for the emergency use of the HPAI vaccine that was developed back in, I think, 2015, right?
Yeah, so it's a poultry vaccine that we've just been waiting for. So Dr. Samantha Gibbs from U.S. Fish and Wildlife she's our avian influenza expert. She's the one that contacted USDA and did get an emergency release of the vaccine. And so now, you know, as everybody is probably aware, when we were waiting for COVID vaccines, I have to go through all these vaccine trials to make sure it's going to be safe. So I think they're going to try using it in vultures and then potentially captive non-releasable condors before we could ever use it in the wild population. But, you know, fingers crossed they can get it to us, because if we protect our birds, that's going to be key.
Yeah, we knew it was going to be a process, but
Yeah.
hopefully it gets expedited. And yeah, again, you got to go through you got to jump through the hoops to make sure it's safe. Last night here. Oh, sorry.
I just want to jump in real quick. I don't know how much more time we have with you, Amy. There's a bunch of questions I wanted to get to. I'm the question guy today. Mike Stake isn't here to join us, so I'm making sure I'm doing my duty. But is this a place to check in, or?
Yeah, I just have this up here. It's not necessarily we have to talk through it, but this is the current status of HPAI cases and bird deaths from HPAI in Monterey County. And
Well, this actually leads perfectly into the first question that one of the folks on the chat asked is, how are condors getting HPAI?
Yeah, so we don't know the source, but it's a good point. I'm glad you bring that up, because I think the important thing to note is that this is such a nasty contagious virus that being shed.
Oh, there you go. Yeah,
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, maybe you need to get closer. Okay.
Okay, sorry. So I was just saying that, you know, it's a good point that to bring up. This is such a nasty contagious virus. So it's going to be shed in everything that comes off our bird, whether that's, you know, any kind of respiratory secretions, saliva, feces. It can remain stable in a water source that, you know, an infected bird has contaminated fecal material in a water source, and then a condor comes and drinks from that. That is, you know, a distinct possibility. So we don't know yet where these birds have it. I've, you know, got the first one got it, but it's so contagious. And then given the nature of condors being such social birds, you know, chances of it going bird to bird, and, you know, that was proven just because there were, you know, pairs where they, you know, the mates, together, you know, went one bird to the other quite quickly. So, you know, the best they're trying to do there is try to avoid putting out, you know, external food and water sources that would encourage even further congregation of birds. But yeah, I mean, this is what puts turkey vultures and condors at such great risk, just because they're so much more social than a lot of other wildlife when it comes to hanging out together and having such a nasty contagious disease.
Yeah, that's a really great point. And let me jump in one more question. I feel the urgency here. There's a lot of question about treatment, and I know there's really not a lot of good information and kind of learning day by day, especially with the unfortunate outbreak that happened in Arizona. But can you comment a little bit about what treatment is available?
So the big thing is support. So these birds, you know, they're not eating, they're not drinking, they're down on the ground, they are sick. And so, you know, we're giving them adequate hydration. We suspect there's probably a bit of discomfort. They are getting, you know, anti-inflammatory pain medications. Some have been given antibiotics for secondary bacterial infections, but most of them now have been given Tamiflu. And so, you know, we learned, you know, even with COVID, these antivirals did affect quite a bit in terms of decreasing shedding and people getting better sooner if you can get these antivirals into them within a short period of time after they've been exposed. And so Dr. Gibbs said, you know, ideally we want to get that in immediately, but it just depends when you can get your hands on that condor. So if they've been sick for a week, we don't know if the Tamiflu is going to make a difference, but we haven't seen any problems giving it. We don't know how much it's helping, but it is part of the treatment regimen now that these birds are getting. So we're trying everything we can, but a lot of it is just giving them the support. Since it's a virus, there is no, you know, specific, you know, one treatment. It's going to be trying to, you know, keep them as healthy as we can, as long as we can, and see if their own immune system is going to get them through it.
Yep. So early detection and supportive care. That's really.
Yeah. But yeah, this is a good slide just to show that, I mean, for the most part, we have not had a lot of cases in our county. You know, what we expected to come our way and what actually has come. We expected to see a lot of mortality, and it's really been, the Canada geese, the white pelicans, and for the most part, we have not seen a lot of problems. So we were hopeful that we weren't going to see a lot of problems with condors, and still are in our area, but unfortunately, it looks like they are going to be quite susceptible to this virus.
Now, what about carcasses? Some folks are asking about, can the birds get it from carcasses? And I suppose if it's fecal material, yes, right?
Yeah,
But you
or if
comment a
you
little bit
had,
more about that.
obviously, yeah, and I say, the obvious thing is if they're eating a carcass that is a bird that died of the virus, there you go. There's a good food source. But for the most part, you're putting a carcass out. Most of the, if you're talking about calves and things like that, pretty low chance that you're going to have a virus associated with that.
Great.
Well, Amy, we know your time is valuable and that you have to go.
Oh, no.
I know you're in the middle of surgeries or checkups or something right now. So we much appreciate you taking the time to come, because this is obviously the most pressing issue we have right now. And it also helps us biologists too to always hear from you. Again, we can't thank you enough for everything you give to the program. And and I think we're going to get through this, but of course, having you on board makes us feel a lot more prepared.
Yeah, I think we overall we're doing as much as we can and what everybody has recommended. And, there's only so much we can do. We can't stop the spread of the virus, but at least we're prepared as best we can be. So hopefully we can save these birds if it comes down to it, and we get a huge exposure down here. So hopefully not. But yeah, thank you to all the crew and everyone else too. There's huge group of people involved with this, so
we might have you come back again if you got the time, because I think this is kind of everyone. It's been so fluid since it started. So as stuff changes, and especially with SPCA, when the pens arrive and we start building.
Give some further updates on what things look like. Down the road would probably be hopeful to see how things are progressing.
Awesome.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Thank you so much, Amy.
Yeah, no problem. Have a good afternoon.
All right.
Okay.
Talk to you later.
That was a real treat. Thank you, Amy. So glad to get that. I know folks listening found that valuable, but if you only knew how much it helps us too. So big thanks, big shout out to Amy. She helps us in so many ways.
I don't know if it was mentioned, but for those that are local, you can find her at the Monterey Avian and Exotic Clinic of Monterey Peninsula.
Yep. All right, let's jump on to the rebuild update. Exciting stuff here. Love this photo. I don't know if you guys could see it, but you can see the condor flying up above in the sky above the pen. We're putting the final touches on the pen. It's pretty much we got it all sealed up. Now we're just doing a lot of fine tuning. We got to install some perching, some pulleys for the remote doors, the small stuff, but it's real tedious. So we're excited. We're really in the home stretch here, and it's going to be a peace of mind to have this pen ready to catch birds in event they do get sick, or we start noticing that, whether it's lead poisoning or avian flu potential symptoms. We'll be able to have a way to catch them quickly and help them. And also, for our routine trapping, to not only to collect blood samples like we were talking about earlier, not only to monitor lead, but to also monitor to see if these birds have been exposed to HPAI, and to change transmitters. Obviously, the only way we're able to keep up with these birds with such a big wingspan is having these transmitters on them. So yeah, we've been working away, and big shout out to the crew. They've been really stepping up, and we had a couple good days, or a few good days the last couple weeks, getting the final panels in on the roof. And right here on the right photo is the crew. They're finishing up the roof on the this is where we trap the birds. This is we call it the DDT, the double door trap. And this is where we get the birds, and then we're able to push them into the main flight pen. And basically catch as many as we can if we have to. Wildflowers are coming out. Pretty beautiful time of year after this big winter. We're seeing lots of wildflowers up on the ridges, which is really nice. And on the right side there, you get a biologist view of what we'll see out inside the pen when birds are in there. Soon to come are perching and other cool stuff in there. We'll have a perch scale, and we'll have a lot of good different little pool in there for them. So yeah, we'll have everything we need. So today we are doing a poll, and I'm gonna hand it off to Kara.
Okay, yeah, this is a little bit of a spoiler alert, but we'll talk more about chicks and nesting season like later on. But spoiler alert is that 204 Amigo and 646 Kodama's chick has officially hatched, and that chick is 1 month old today. So it looks like this little picture here. That's not the actual chick, but it's about like exactly that size.
About the size of a chicken.
Yeah, about the size of a chicken. Still a little gray fluff ball, just cute as can be. But our poll is gonna be for you all to guess or try to infer what stud book ID, what stud book number do you think that this new chick is? So for our options, we have 1199, we have 1200, and then we have 1204. So go ahead.
Maybe explain a little bit about the stud book numbering system. Not everybody will be familiar.
Yeah, absolutely. So the stud book is pretty much a way just to keep track of the condors. So kind of as condors are hatched and born, they get assigned a number, which is just that number condor in the entire population. So for 204, for example, he's the 204th condor within the recovery program as a whole. 646 is the 646th condor in the population as a whole. So what do you guys think that this new chick is in the entire condor population?
All righty, I think we're at about a minute on the poll. We still have quite a few people voting, so we'll keep. Well,
I mean, you gotta mention too, like how do you go look up these birds and learn about them, and how do you find out about these numbers?
You can go on, we have Condor Spotter, which is an incredible site. You can kind of figure out wherever you are in the condor like territories population. You can click on that population. So for any condors in like the Big Sur coast or over at Pinnacles, you can click the Central California population, and then there'll be like their numbers all pop up, and you can learn a lot more information about them, like their hatch dates, and if they have a nickname, what their nickname is, kind of what tags they have on their wings, kind of everything you could possibly want. So if you're ever over at Pinnacles or in Big Sur and you see a condor and you want to know more about it, you can go to Condor Spotter and learn everything you would want to about that bird.
Yeah, so condorspotter.com. It looks like the poll is slowed down, so I think I'm going to end the poll.
Cool. Yeah, and we will, again, I said it's a little bit of a spoiler. We'll tell you what this chick stud book number is a little later on. So you'll have to wait a little bit.
Oh.
I know.
Okay, hang on. Bear with me here.
Let's see.
So then this is our Central California population update. So we're still pretty steady. Thankfully, we have not had any more condor deaths since our last chat. We're still waiting. I know we're all anxious to know what the results are for 7-Eleven Big Gulp. But unfortunately, we haven't gotten those results from the necropsies yet. So we're still waiting on that. And then since we've had 2 chicks hatch, our population has increased to 91. So we won't count those nests until they hatch, or the eggs. But since we've had 2 nests hatch, those have been added to our population. So as of today, we have 91 condors in the Central California population.
Nice to get back in the 90s.
Yes, definitely.
Go
Guess
for
that's my side.
it. Yeah. Chew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, no, for anybody that's new to our condor chats or anything, we have GPS units that we put on the bird to follow their day-to-day movements. And The field crew and I like to, really check those GPS units and the data that's coming from them, to just check in on well-being, see where these birds are hanging out. If they're in trouble, we have a good indicator where they're at, or if they're doing really cool flights, moving on. We're always referencing that GPS and following them. So today I kind of put together a map just to show our release birds from San Simeon, the 2022 cohort. And I wanted to put that out against the rest of the Condor data. If you're an Explore viewer, you probably had noticed some exciting things happen this past month up in Big Sur with one of our release birds. 1099 Yarrow made it up to base camp. So on the map, you could see her tag number in that orange now around the Big Sur marking there. But in that blue outline is kind of all the area that the release birds had covered in the past month. So they're spreading out quite a bit. Whereas like that, the heat map that's surrounding it is the GPS data for all of the birds in our flock. And I just wanted to put that for a comparison of, how much they're starting to integrate into the normal range of our birds. So they're really getting out there and exploring everything. All of the birds have left the release site now. We had Madrone made it pretty far up into like the central portion of the range on April 24th. And then we also had Wild Bill made a flight a little farther up the coast as well, but good old Bucky made it down to south of San Simeon and everything. So that was really significant. He's following some birds around. We're excited to watch them. But on the map too, you can also see that the other birds were moving around kind of out of that purple zone, which is an area I call the general range of the condor. I used last year's GPS data for the entire population to map out their normal range. So we're always looking for flights that are happening outside of that because they're pretty interesting. And we did have 994 headed south and almost made it, did make it to High Mountain Lookout, and kept going and circled back up into the back into the general range, and just really made for an interesting movement for this past month in April.
Yeah, that's kind of what we anticipated right after those rains stopped. We were expecting to see some big movements because the birds are pretty cooped up throughout all those storms. And it's definitely feels like they're kind of definitely in a big explore mode right now. But that was great that day we were up there, and 1099 Yarrow popped up. That was a nice surprise.
Yeah, absolutely. That was really cool. We were up at base camp and got to see that firsthand when
I remember we were joking because you can imagine that young birdie, because Big Sur's kind of the epicenter. That's where all the big birds hang out, all the big dogs on campus, and he rolled up, and it had to be intimidating, to come into that scene with all these big pairs around, these really old birds, and just it had to be just mind-blowing for that bird when it first showed up.
Yeah, absolutely. It was kind of funny. We were driving out from base camp and everything. We saw Yarrow up in a tree, and it was pretty clear that she was at the bottom of the hierarchy. She was kind of keeping to herself at the bottom. There are a bunch of birds above her and everything. So she fell into place. I'm sure she was quite intimidated by all the new adult birds that she was seeing.
Yeah, it's exciting. So I'm imagining those others are going to pop up here pretty soon.
Yeah, I think so too.
Thanks, Evan, as always, for putting together an awesome map.
Yeah, and I guess just moving on to the nesting update, everybody's always eager to hear how things are going. Again, anybody that's new, we monitor nest in Central California at Ventana. We kind of take on the coastal nests, whereas Pinnacles is taking on a lot of those interior nests. So here in Big Sur, we're looking closely at 2, but now 3. I think that last one down there is a new update that I'll tell you a little bit more about. But Kara started talking about 646 and 204's nest. They have hatched, but we also had the opportunity to get out there this month. So I wasn't part of that trip, but I know some of our other biologists were. I don't know if Darren or Kara have anything to say about their nest observation when they confirmed that hatched egg.
Yeah, we were fortunate to be able to get out there in the past couple weeks and just to check on that pair again. I'd been out a little while before when we noticed they first started nesting, and they were still in the incubation phase at that stage. And at this tree, they're very well covered from us being able to see them in there and see much. But at that point, I think we showed you guys we were able to find just some tail feathers sticking out of the cavity there, showing us that a bird was incubating. But yeah, this past time, we had suspected that their egg had hatched based on the lay date that we had estimated. And we tried so hard to see into that cavity to see a chick. Every moment that either Amigo or Kodama stood up in the cavity, we were like looking really hard to see if we could get a glimpse of that chick. Unfortunately, no luck there in actually seeing it. But based on their behavior, they were still clearly incubating something, and they were switching out pretty regularly. I think in that week, it seemed like they were taking turns, switching out once a day. Like a bird would, like one of them would be at the nest for a day, incubating the chick. And at that point, that's a pretty clear pattern to us that they definitely did not have an egg any longer, and that they were incubating a chick. But yeah, Kara, anything else you wanted to add on there?
I don't think so. I think you kind of said everything. But yeah, we were definitely trying to figure out the best angle to see into that cavity. And we were kind of scaling up higher a little bit, and just, trying our very best to see in there. But it was cool to see both parents there, and just being at the nest. And it's always fun to watch condor nests for sure.
Yeah, once that brooding behavior kicks in, you really see a lot of exchanges in the nest, don't you? A lot of coming and going, right?
Yes. Yeah. 204
Yeah,
is a
that's
super good dad though. So it seems like we kind of joke that he's always like, "Nah, I got it. You're good. Get out of here." I'm good. So yeah, he's on that nest a lot. But yes, they switch out way more often than if they had an egg.
For
Awesome.
sure, yeah, and that kind of moves on to the next pair that we're watching is 626 and 729. That's a nest that we actually can't get to, or haven't been able to at least yet. It's in a really gnarly area, and so we kind of have to watch it from afar. And one of the good tools that we use is GPS on 626, and that allows us to follow really closely how often the parents are coming and going, because we get that really steady stream of data coming in. And then we also have to rely on a couple other tools when we can't physically access the nest location. So we'll look at explore cameras and see if the birds are on the camera at the same time and things like that to help monitor it. But yeah, we suspected their egg did hatch earlier this week on April 22nd. And then our final one that we're watching here on the coast is 550 and 652. Again, another one that I think, Kara, you got a chance to go out there and everything, check on that nest, didn't you?
Yeah, Danae and I were able to hike out. I think it's been a couple weeks now. But they were still on, they still had an egg at that point. So 550 was on the egg or the nest the whole time we were there. So again, another one that we just haven't been able to get back out to confirm hatched, but again, based on our lay date, we suspect that it has hatched. But again, another nest that is super, super hard to see into that cavity. So we'll definitely kind of rely on that behavior of incubating an egg versus a chick for this one.
Awesome. Yeah, and then we kind of, Pinnacles is really doing well too with nests out there this year. There's 317 and 330. They hatched an egg pretty early at March 14th. Also have 236 and 340. They are expected to hatch an egg kind of in the next couple of weeks, May 9th, and then we have 569 and 589 who also are expected to hatch an egg on the 9th. So unfortunately, they did have an egg that failed. That's 726 and 962's egg. Pinnacles Crew got out there and it did confirm that the egg was infertile. So that was unfortunate news, but they do have a lot of other nests going, and then we even are still suspicious of a couple more nests that we haven't confirmed yet. So
Yeah, thanks, Evan, for going through all the nest happenings that we've been able to confirm thus far. And yeah, like you just said, there's still a few pairs out there that we're keeping a close eye on. I know we've talked about 538 Miracle and 219 Puff Daddy before. We're suspecting they're nesting in an area that's just been really difficult to access, given the recent weather of the past couple months. There's been a lot of road closures out into the area where we think they are, and we're working to get out there, trying to get permits if needed, and just monitoring the road closures to see it, if we can get out there as soon as possible. But yeah, we're still strongly suspecting that Miracle and Puff Daddy are going strong and nesting out there. A trio that we mentioned before as well, Minerva 881, Zephyr 631, and then 745, who's a Pinnacles male. Yeah, it's tougher to follow the trios because with 3 birds involved, the incubation patterns and things are a little different, a little harder to follow. And also Minerva is a stealth bird, which means she doesn't have a functioning radio transmitter, and she also does not have a functioning GPS transmitter. So the only times we can follow her are when we can actually see her. And kind of like 538 and 219, they're nesting in a pretty remote area that we have not been able to access, but we're trying our best to keep our eye on them. And then a newer pair that we think might have nested very recently is 208 Solo and 168 Beak Boy. Beak Boy was recently trapped by Pinnacles National Park at the end of March, and received a new tail radio transmitter, and also a GPS unit. And that was at that time, Solo was also there hanging around the pen when he was in there waiting for a partner to be released so they could be reunited. But really since then, we've noticed some interesting patterns from Beak Boy's GPS movements. He's been going back to this area where they have nested historically. And we've also been seeing them for the most part in the past month separately, which is sort of a new pattern for us. So a lot of the times when we see one, we see the other up until about like earlier this month or so. So yeah, we've still got some excitement, hopefully, to share with you guys in the next few months with some of these nests that we're still trying to confirm.
Yeah, so we could be as many, we have 6 now, but as many as 9.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, pretty cool. I mean, 168, oldest bird in our flock, and he's been with 208 since 2007. They did their first nest attempt and they produced 431. So that's pretty cool to see them still going. Pretty impressive.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let me get to the next slide. All right. So we ready to reveal the answer?
Yeah, is the poll closed? Are we going to show the results?
Closed. Let me pull it up.
Okay.
Can everyone
Ooh,
see it?
it's very split. So 20% said that the Condor's new stud ID is going to be $11.99. 40% said $1,200, and 40% said $1,204. So it was very split. So we want to announce what this chick's new stud ID is?
Sure.
You can go to the next slide. Yeah.
Sorry. I'm trying to close all these. I got too many windows open.
Suspense. Okay, it's 12:04. So, yeah, I know. Very, very crazy. So on Tuesday, we got an email that this chick's stud ID is 1204, which we think is the coolest thing ever, because eventually when it gets its like permanent tags, it's going to be an 11 or a yellow tag with a 4 and a line underneath. So both its dad and it will have a yellow tag with a 4 on it, which is like, what are the odds? I think so cool.
It is pretty cool. And the fact that we're in the 1200s is pretty.
And the fact that we're in the 1200s is also amazing. But yeah, we were all up at base camp together and we got the email and we were like 1204. So it's definitely very, very exciting. And then I know we mentioned that 317 and 330's chick has hatched as well. That chick's going to be 1195. So that is that chick's new stud ID as well. So we got 2 new chicks in the population.
All right. Yeah. Thank you, Kara and Joe, for the big reveal on that. Yeah. So moving on, just to this highway cleanup we had in the past week, just yesterday even. Wow, it doesn't feel like it was only that soon ago. But yeah, we one of our volunteers, Anthony Duggan, works at an inn in Big Sur called Alila Ventana Big Sur. And so him and his crew offered to help us with the highway cleanup, where we just stopped at some of the vista points and pullouts along Highway 1 and just picked up any litter we could find. And it was an awesome day out there. It was foggy. We know the fog came in real quick, which is pretty typical for Big Sur. But yeah, so we didn't see much in terms of condors out there, but we certainly found a lot of litter to pick up. And Joe, if you go to the next slide, you guys can see the work we did out there. In just about 2.5 hours, almost 3 hours, we got to about 6 bags worth of trash at just like 3 or 4 different pullouts and vista points. There was a lot to collect, and there's still more out there for us to do. So yeah, we had a really good time. It was great working with these folks. We're looking forward to working with them again, and a huge shout out to the Alila Ventana Big Sur crew and Anthony for putting this together. He originally reached out to our volunteer coordinator, Danae, and yeah, they really got this going. So yeah, it was an awesome thing that we were able to put together. And yeah, we're looking forward to doing more of these and to help clean up Big Sur and the condor habitat.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and as always, we can't do what we do without the help of our volunteers. Yeah, I mean, the volunteer tracking program has been a huge success. I mean, they've really helped us out with tracking the condors on the coast using radio telemetry. It's been a pleasure getting to know and train all of these folks. They're all so passionate about condors, and they each bring a different perspective and set of expertise to this work. And so it's just been great working with these folks. Yeah, I mean, like I said, they're tracking condors. Whenever they see condors, they're observing them closely and reporting back to us on any behaviors or unique things they see, trying to help us identify things like breeding behavior and to keep up with the nesting birds, and even looking for birds that might not be looking so well, so we know to pay special attention to those individuals and trap them if needed. And also outreach. They're speaking to a lot of the tourists and other visitors to Big Sur, and teaching a lot of folks about condors and condor conservation, and the importance of having these birds around. So yeah, just can't thank the volunteers in our tracking program enough for that. And similarly, all the folks who contribute to watching our explore.org live cams. I mean, they're always on it and watching these birds closely and letting us know if they see anything concerning, but also like just unique or exciting. They're on top of it, and we love reading through the comments on these live streaming cams and getting information from folks that way, but also just like being able to see the passion and excitement that everyone has for these condors. It's really awesome.
Well, yeah, on that note, big thanks to the crew. Awesome update. Big shout out to Amy Wells for joining us today. Really, really cool. And I think that won't be the last we see of her. Our next Condor chat is May 25th, 2023 at 4 p.m. That's Pacific Standard Time. And then Kelly, are we gonna have time to field some questions? Because Mike.
Yeah, I've been
Mike,
jotting down a few as we go, and I think we have a few more minutes, right?
are you going to do as good as Mike? That's the real question. I mean,
No,
Mike's-
no way.
Yes, you might come back. Mike's on vacation, right?
Yeah, I think everyone else will miss him even more after this, but no, let's see here. One question Nancy had, hopefully she's still with us. She had a really insightful question about, what our plans are for releasing condors this fall. A lot can happen between now and then, with HPAI and so forth. So I know we, aren't making any decisions just yet, but that's Nancy's question.
Yeah, I think we're following the lead of U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. They delegate out which birds go where. And so I think we're just going to follow their input. As of right now, we're planning to get released birds. In terms of numbers, we don't know for sure. And our plan is to have those birds go to San Simeon for the usual release pattern. And we'll do the live streaming release. And again, unless Kelly, as you mentioned, if something comes up with HPAI and we receive direction otherwise from Fish and Wildlife Service, but we're hoping to release. Obviously, we got to try and stay on course with our recovery goals.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was only 3 years ago, the population was 101 and we're still 10 birds fewer than that. So absolutely, if we can, we need to keep putting more birds out there, I think. And I think the zoos are ramping up production too. So it's important, even more so.
That, and ideally they're all vaccinated when they come up. That's the real hope, is that we can get these release birds as part of that emergency vaccine. But that's still hard to say what's going to happen.
Yep. All right. Now, Redwood Queen and Phoenix were notably missing in this chat. I think they weren't really mentioned much, maybe not entirely missing, but there were some questions about how they're doing. They're not nesting this year, right? Because they nested last year, or what kind of update can you provide there?
Evan or Darren or Kara?
Yeah, I can chime in real quick on this. We're keeping a close eye on them. To this point, we haven't seen anything that has been obvious to suggest they're nesting, but it's always a possibility. I mean, especially like the birds that we always say how a lot of the pairs at Pinnacles are really carrying the population right now, because they've been sort of breaking the norm and nesting in consecutive years. And having success with that. So it's possible that could be happening here on the coast as well. We're always watching even the pairs that nested last year to see if they could potentially be nesting in a consecutive year. So 190 and 477 definitely qualify for that. And again, nothing obvious yet to this point, but we are keeping an eye on it just to see if they might give it a go.
Yeah. So condors typically breed every other year, but in some rare cases, we have seen them breed consecutively, correct?
Yep. Yeah, that's correct. And sorry, Kara, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say that I saw someone commenting about Aniko. Aniko is at base camp. Usually she was hanging out over at Pinnacles, but she's decided to come over to Big Sur.
Yeah, she's been regular lately. It's been cool.
Yeah, her and 190 were feeding on the cam today. So
and I saw 1031 hanging out with one of the untagged chicks from.
Ooh, okay.
And 1031 is Aniko, right?
Yes, sorry.
1031. Yeah.
It's the biologist coming out in us. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's see. I got just a couple more. Let's see. There was a mention of a failure already, and then maybe the egg was infertile. But are we sure that it was an infertile egg, or we're not really sure?
Yeah, it was based on the egg cannling. It was infertile.
It was infertile. Okay. Last question. This is from Sam Troy. Hope I pronounced your name correctly. She wants to know what the colored tags mean. What's a yellow versus a purple, and so on. I think that might be useful for a lot of people listening in.
Go for it.
Yeah.
Okay, I can continue since I was kind of explaining what stud book IDs are. The tags are just kind of our way of identifying them. So each color corresponds to that like first number. So either like 100, 200, 300, and so on. And then the number that's actually on the tag is those last 2 digits. So a yellow 4 is 204. And then kind of since we're in past the 1000s now, we're just reusing that color system. So as you can probably see, our like 1099 is an orange tag. So there are still some birds out in the wild that are like number 20, number 79. Those guys have orange tags. And then again, like 1100 as well as 190 both have red tags. So it gets a little complicated, but kind of if you just think of the colors as that first number and then the actual numbers on the tag as those second numbers.
Yeah.
And
I
when
hope
in
that
doubt-
makes sense.
And
but
when in doubt, go to condorspotter.com.
Go to Condor Spotter.
Yeah, exactly.
It definitely takes time to kind of remember everything and learn it all, but
Good
yeah,
problem to have.
a little complicated.
And what's
Well-
awesome about Condor Spotter as well is it also has everybody's name on it too. So all the Ventana birds that are named, it will include that information in there, as well as like their birth dates. We do a lot of posts for that kind of stuff. But yeah, Condor Spotter has it all. So definitely check it out.
So I just want to say one last thing. I can't believe we're in the 1200s. Joe, you remember the very first stub book number we released was 134, wasn't it?
Yeah, 134.
And then 137, and then there was a couple in the 140s, I think. That very first
145,
cohort back in 1997. That's just amazing. We've been doing it for this long.
Pretty crazy.
Yeah, wow. Well, anyway, I don't have any other questions, so whatever you want to do to wrap up here. But I'll say thanks while I still have the microphone. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. And it looks like we got Amy back, so thank you, Amy. Yep. Anyway, yeah, join us next time. Again, the next Condor Chat, May 25th, 2023. We look forward to seeing everybody. And again, thanks for joining us. As always, we love to keep you updated. Good night,
Good
everyone.
night, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Yeah.